we're at Immanuel Lutheran Church celebrating this year our 135th anniversary. And in doing so, we have invited back several sons of the congregation. And this morning we have with us Pastor Kenneth Losch. Good morning, Pastor Losch.
Good morning.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Nice to have you with us today.
Good to be here too.
Good. What we'd like to do is to review a little bit about yourself and have you tell us how you came to Immanuel and how you came to know us, and tell me your time spent with us. So if you could start out, please, with how did you happen to come to Immanuel first?
My family transferred to Immanuel when Olivet Lutheran Church dissolved. So we came, and I'm not sure of the year then. It must be 56 or 57, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
And when the church was dissolved and we moved here, my brother finished confirmation. He had started at Olivet, and then finished his last year here, and then belonged to Immanuel since from my parents there.
Oh, okay. And how old were you at that time?
Well, in 56, I was 10 or 11 years old.
Aha!
Depending on the time of year.
Sure.
Many years ago.
Ah, yes, isn't it for all of us? So then you started with us in confirmation class? At that time, they had confirmation classes earlier than they are now, right?
I was confirmed in the 8th grade.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Must 1960, I think, was the year I was confirmed here at Immanuel. Pastor Curtis.
Ah, okay. And then were you active in church, like in High League at that time, during high school and all that
well,
too? Or?
Not, but mostly since we lived a ways from the church, I was more active in the community, YMCA. Things on that order.
I understood from Pastor Hollingsworth a couple weeks ago that you were on the swim team, that swimming was a very active sport of yours during high school.
Very active in swimming during high school and college. Trying to get reactivated that way. Motivation.
Sure. That's understandable.
But some of the people who were involved in the same grades as I was, Michelle, Gary Knapp. Gary was a classmate of mine at Lane Tech as well as going to Immanuel here. So Gary and I had a friendship that was in high school as well as in the church. It was rather unique to think of 6,500 people or however many went there, and the person you sat next to was the same person you went to church with. Those kind of
Yes.
experience.
I would think more so at Lane. I mean, like I went to Sun, of course it was right next door almost, But even there, at that time, it was mostly a Jewish high school, and so there were a few of us around. But yes, very interesting. So where did you went away to college then?
Went to Gustavus Adolphus in St. Peter, Minnesota.
Oh,
okay. And came back and went to LSTC. Graduated from LSTC in 1972. Or
maybe do you remember where or how you decided to become a minister, and what influenced you in that decision?
I talked about it very early on, at least that's what people tell me. I remember when you decided to become a pastor.
Oh, really?
But as far as a specific time and date, I really don't know. I think it was probably my junior year in college that I decided to apply for seminary and go through with the process that had been started. One thing that I remember from earlier days was Bob Morris's 8th grade Sunday school class. And in those days when you were in confirmation, you were also expected to go to Sunday school and sing in the choir. I can remember mouthing words in the choir, hang the butcher in the balcony and all that stuff.
Of course.
After a sermon. But the one thing I remember about Bob Morris's Sunday school class was the competition that he had in terms of memorization. And what he had set up, and those kinds of Bible verses, and kind of the process of the rewards then that were received, or what was won in this competition. And at the time, I remember getting really involved with the competition because I wanted to win the prize. But it's amazing how many of those things have with you, the things that you've memorized
Mhm.
from when you were a child. And now with my own children going into confirmation, oh, gee, Dad, do we have to memorize this?
Mhm.
Yeah, you do. It really stays with you. So that was, I guess, one of my recollections of Immanuel here was that Sunday school class and the memorization and the competition that he set up
Oh.
between people. And then we did go on special trips
Oh. Mhm.
together with in Highly, senior Highly. I remember going to the Dunes.
Mhm.
In fact, I think that's when I first remember doing it.
That could be. Oh yes. Yes.
And then I think I was younger at that time that my parents went with to chaperone. Then wasn't there?
That could be. Because your mom was telling me that she was used to be a chaperone of like junior league.
Yeah.
And that, and so it's possible that they, came on a bigger outing.
And then there was a winter retreat.
Oh.
So I remember
Yes.
being the youngest one there because
Ah.
my parents were with. But that was kind of fascinating to look at all the big kids.
I bet. Yes.
They were having.
Perspective is a lot different than
That's right.
like, how interesting.
That's right. Gee, these guys really have a lot of fun.
Right. See? Right. Right. Pretty good. Then you came back from Gustavus and went to LSTC. Mm-hmm.
Graduated in 72.
Mm-hmm. And then you were ordained shortly thereafter. And where were you ordained at?
1972 at Springfield,
Mm-hmm.
or Springfield, Illinois, and the seminary.
Oh, okay. Okay. And then where did you go to serve from there?
Moved to Wadena, Minnesota, which is in central Minnesota. At that time, it was part of the River Valley Synod,
Oh, okay.
LCA,
Mm-hmm.
and Wadena is a town of about 5,200 people.
Mm-hmm.
And I served the 3-point parish.
Oh, that's quite a bit of traveling, isn't it?
Well,
Maybe not in that area, but
it was quite spread out. I was an associate pastor in a large congregation as a youth pastor, and then served 2 small, rural,
Oh.
open country congregations
Mm-hmm.
for 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. And then you are now married. Did you get married in Minnesota?
No, well, we did. We got married at Christ Chapel on the campus of East Davis College.
Oh.
But we were married in 1969.
Oh.
We have 4 kids.
And they are? Big test time.
Jennifer, Sammy, Jonathan, and Stephanie.
Oh. Very nice. Very nice. Are they all
15, 13, 11, and 9.
Very good. Very good. Your wife will be proud of you. Is that the only parish that you have served? You've been in Minnesota your whole time of ordained ministry then?
1977, we moved to Hallock, Minnesota, where we live now.
Mm-hmm.
And Hallock is in the northwest corner of Minnesota, about 15 miles south of Manitoba.
Oh.
And 20 miles
Way up there.
east of North Dakota. So,
Mm-hmm.
Hallock's a town of about 1,400 people,
Mm-hmm.
right north of Lake Wolverhampton. You know,
Oh, I've heard. I've never been there, but I've heard. Mm-hmm. Those are the only ministries you've had. I shouldn't say only ministries. I'm sorry.
well, no, it's the two
Mm-hmm.
churches, and we have been in Hallock 11 years now. Kids are part of a small town. That's kind of interesting too. We
Mm-hmm.
come home to visit, and my mother always complains that her grandchildren are kids.
Oh no!
Always tells me to put on shoes.
Oh.
When I go downtown and get to some of the department stores, they like to ride escalators.
That's right. That's right. She was telling me. I served the stewardship committee with her, and she was telling me that big fascination was to go downtown. But I mean, it's a totally different world. Basically, it's still a small town up there, which to us is kind of incredulous that would still remain. That there's some place that still remains a small town when we're so city acclimated.
We don't have stoplight. So
Really?
Down stoplight.
How fascinating.
The only time we lock the cars is in August, and that's because otherwise they'd be filled with zucchini for people trying to get here.
Oh no! That's great. That's great. I love it. It's something that somehow we would not think about here. It just wouldn't occur to me. Going back a little bit, was there any particular person or any event that you can think of that around your growing up that influenced you to become a minister? Who's your big influence in that area?
I guess when I think of myself as being in the ministry, most of it and why I am doing the things that I do comes from reflection. When I look back on events and happenings, then I can say, well, this must be the hand of God, this must be the Spirit that is leading and guiding me. One incident that stands out in my mind that I didn't find out until many years later is that when the Olivet Lutheran Church dissolved and the building was sold and the membership went, most of it to Immanuel, but some other members to other Lutheran churches in the area. But the money that was taken from the sale of that building went to start a mission on the North Shore up in Glenview area, suburban Chicago. And the pastor developer at that time is now the bishop of the Northwest Minnesota Synod of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. And he's the one who told me that story. And he used it in an Easter message that he sent out to the clergy about death and resurrection, how a congregation died and a new congregation was given birth by this gift of the sale of the proceeds of that. And I guess what kind of effect that had on me in terms of my own life experience and situations is that sense of death and resurrection. There's always a dying, but always a rebirth into new life. There's always some pain associated with the dyings, but there's also the rebirth and the new birth. I think, for example, in my own life of leaving home or going off to school, the pain, the grief of being separated, but then the rebirth and the new birth and the new beginning that happen and take place in one's life and existence. So the only way I can look at specific events and happenings in my life is in that sense of death and rebirth. And I can't specifically point to an instance and say, oh, this is when I decided to go into the ministry. But I just think the church has always been an important part of my life, that no matter where I went or what I did, there was always the church. Always, every Sunday morning, whether I wanted to or not, the church was a part of my existence and being. So that was kind of the thing that stayed with me through this whole process of the dyings and the new birth. It's always a sense of faith and always a sense of church and belonging that came from this place. And the people like Bob Morris, who taught Sunday school, Reddings, who were involved in the youth programs, the interns that served, Bob Collin, Pastor Gustafson, Pastor Curtis, Pastor Desky. You know, and you think of all of those people, it's hard to point to one specific thing. But the church always was. The gospel of Jesus Christ always was. And the people came and the events changed, and you had this dying and this rebirth. But you always knew that you belonged, and this was the place to be.
That's very nice. That's very nice. Your brother was also ordained, you alluded to them before. Were you ordained together?
Bill was ordained at the same Synod Convention in 1972, Springfield.
How great that must have been for you both.
Yeah, it was
what a thrill, I would imagine.
Timpani drums. I can remember leaning over saying to him, "Don't you just love parade?" There was about 3,000 people, mass choirs, and big band and everything. There was
how exciting! Of course. I bet that it's very obvious that you would say that, but I also, the few pastors that I've known personally that have been through an ordination that I have either seen or been to, have all expressed exactly the same kind of sentiment. And I personally, even as a spectator, find it a little overwhelming, especially when I can imagine what you went through as an individual happening to you, but even myself as seeing the people that I know, is how exciting, how thrilling it must be.
There were 14 of us who ordained at the Senate Convention that year. And the one thing I remember is Gerald Johnson, who was the bishop at that time, asked us the questions, the affirmation of faith. Do you believe in God the Father? Do you believe in Jesus Christ? Do you believe in God the Holy Spirit? And we responded with the Apostles' Creed. And we forgot the Apostles' Creed.
Oh no!
And he said, this is the leadership of the church.
Right, I love it.
Fortunately, we recovered in time.
Oh, good, yes. And you were ordained, good. I'm glad he didn't hold that up from you. For that. So, great. That's been very interesting, very interesting. I want to thank you again for coming this morning. We appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
And we're looking forward to hearing your word. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. My pleasure.